Alright, so I'm not going to be able to upload this one today, but we'll get to it. But these Halmos and Hausdorff, I actually like it as Paul and Haas. These are two important models that I'm getting to because I've been trying to catch a good set theory to be able to base this. Now, I'm sure the mathematical principle will work in here equally like pause and go, the methodology of let this run and try to talk over it. Those are two different models. And in that way, you're looking at the classical institutional models from like a college perspective, or just, well, you be careful with what models are in there because it might be a really a change of base thesis. But try to remember these names: Hausdorff, Haas, set theory, set Haas. Remember those. And Paul, Helsmos, is a naive set theory, and this is actually set to beginners. Whether it be the large universe at whole and some strong professional doing it, and a Gresham's law that comes up, not only to just do it again because that's failure proofs. Like once this is established, we can set equations, Alice and Bob models to it, which is a set or a group. And in that nucleus, there is a model which I'm sure this math would run parallel to, or at least from a mathematics standpoint, you should, even if you don't know terms in general, because thesis A and thesis B works with anthropomorphism and dysphoria and the Sharpe's violation or salty training models, that says from one perspective one's one and the other one's the other one, and that's why mathematically they work to those sets. And when you know those sets from an institutional model, that it'll give you a better backbone, and therefore the nervous system, circulatory, and this triple body gorilla problem comparatively to a double body problem or anything individually in this theory. So now you have to look at it like the original system wasn't as clean or as algebraic series as this will be, to hopefully, again, not knowing this, but even in that way, this fx or fx main line, I start from this very pure model, which is a little bit more up to date. Not, I mean, today's Gresham's law and Bell's inequality and time dilation stuff, but it's going to specify why each of these theses do what it does because of mathematics. And I hope they actually were to take down an integral, work it all the way to a closed surface integral of a stone mill or a school's learning curve, A to F, over the series of the system. That's a field theory. And in that field theory, it's local tensor, whether it be Ricci's or Hubble or Hausdorff's or Helsmos, that they're going to set the initial standard of what fx. And as long as we stay in that value and understand those theses, that if given f in that form or a in that form a certain value, that they trajectory in terms of momentum, negative gravity, a lot of mu calculations or potentially anti-mu forms. See, relatively speaking, whatever the majority base is really what it is. You're at 80% looking for the Hamiltonian, which says that is your electron. Now, in a field, you'll have other magnetic fields, collisions, and things that act in the same way. And in that value, you could potentially call them a virtual particle, axion, or an anti-mu or anti-electron. It's still an orbital out there around general mass, right? All the core, the mantle, the atmosphere, waters, different, how that's going to globular smooth, different air resistance, because everything's a fluid, everything's a wave. Mathematically, that's true. For the most part, though, some approximations are better to use 23 degrees on the angle of the Earth's tilt in the astrology bubble, dark matter bubble. when actually, once you have that set, we can then say, given the local IHs, the shortest distance, Leo, Prometheus, Orpheus, Cancer, North Star, Southern Cross, Einstein Cross, being some of the Cepheid variable stars inside of this function, that you could play that out on the Warhammer table to actually get that thing to not only me, but everybody else, kind of the rules of the game work to the command points that we simulated this base to within the bandwidth of that. We change the bandwidth, this may potentially change the system. But Dirac's equation says if it's 300 command points, then that's what we packed in. It's kind of human quantifiable. We'll start with the thesis and scientific method to really refine that idea down, to compare it against something, so that way we can actually graph to why Games Workshop's version of Warhammer today is that before it gets into other types of heresy and Monopoly and chess to 10 to the 120th. Again, those are great little base models to get you going before we Gresham's law that with the thesis, or at least respect for it's either, I know there's Bell's inequality, but there's also Pauli's exclusionary principles, which set minor differences, a subframe or a submetrics inside of that Jacobian, that allows us to be able to speak the same language and therefore move much faster than space would allow us, or causal natures would allow us from a teacher's perspective, with dealing with the relative nature of the perspective of that quantum function. Now again, I don't want to beat this up too much, something to think about. Catch you on the next one.